you ever wondered what happens behind the scenes at crime scene investigation? I am currently standing outside the brand new Keele University Forensic Science Simulation Centre. It's a brand new house that has been created for forensic science students so they have a more immersive learning experience. Today, we will be speaking to Dr David Thompson, part of Keele University's Forensic Science Department. So if you want to step behind the yellow tape, come with us as we investigate the crime scene house.
My name is Dr David Thompson. I'm a senior lecturer in forensic and analytical chemistry.
And can you explain where we currently are at the moment?
We're in our brand new forensic science simulation facility. So we use this space to simulate a range of different sort of crime scenes. So here we've got a sort of simulated post office. In other spaces we've got sort of simulated bars, and then also sort of domestic scenes as well. So sort of bedrooms, living rooms, that sort of thing.
What is the need for this type of facility?
So you're training a forensic science student. We start off in the lecture theatre and we explain the theory behind a particular technique, fingerprinting for example. Then we've got laboratories, so the students actually go into the laboratory, they practice the technique and everything in the laboratory. And then finally we bring them into somewhere like this, and this is more of a realistic sort of setup. You've got different surfaces that you might want to sort of fingerprint in here, more than we have in the laboratory. And it's also just a bit more difficult to work in. Things are a bit smaller and you haven't got that sort of free space, and it takes a lot more skill to be able to do the same sort of fingerprinting that you do in the lab. It's really to give that realism. When they go out to do this for real, for a job, it's kind of these sorts of places they're going to be in. So we give them that sort of realistic experience.
Is there any other techniques of the fingerprints that you actually teach them or allow them to experience in these simulation houses?
These simulation spaces create the context for the crime that they're investigating. So it's not just fingerprinting we do here. We'll do toxicology work here, so they might find powders or liquids that need to be analysed. There'll be a lot of other trace evidence that'll be here, so things like fibres, hairs, that sort of thing that they will pick up in this particular facility. So as I said, this is all about the sort of context and how we use these spaces to say, right, okay, we found this fibre, kind of what does it mean? We found it in this particular location and we think it's got there because of this has happened. And that's the important thing about these particular spaces.
Is it kind of one of those projects where they collect the evidence and then they take it away to the laboratory to kind of analyse as well?
We use this for a range of different reasons. So we will use it for teaching isolated techniques, but we do have a crime scene to court module as well with an assessment in. So they will do everything in the entire process. So they will come into the scene. They don't know what the scene is. But they'll come in, they'll wear the proper suits, they will carry out an initial evaluation of the scene, decide what evidence they're going to recover. They will then recover that evidence, they will then package it up correctly again, and then they will submit it to the laboratory. They will then go and then open up the packets again, recording all of the information so we maintain our chain of custody, and they will then carry out the analysis, get the results, and then they will evaluate the results from that. And the final bit of the assessment from that is actually they go into our courtroom that we have on site here.
Courtroom as well.
Over in the School of Law, and they will be cross-examined on their evidence. So a sort of defence and prosecution cross-examination. The end point of that sort of process, but they cover everything from, like I said, they've found the evidence and they've taken it all the way through to their standing up in court and explaining, what it actually means, which is what they do if they do this for real.
What is the most interesting technique to kind of teach people?
The technique that I think is the most interesting for me for this is I absolutely love fingerprinting. The amount of information you get from a fingerprint and the fact that everybody's fingerprint is unique and just find it absolutely amazing, and how you analyse those and how we teach the students those as well. For me, I find that part really interesting.
And of course, we're currently standing in a post office. There's bedrooms, we've seen bars, that sort of thing. So where do you actually get all of your kind of scenery from?
So we've been lucky that when we've had refurbishments on campus of different sort of food outlets or bars or things like that, we've had the opportunity to take away what was there previously. And the most important thing for us, though, is that it's genuine sort of surfaces. And genuine, so some of these materials are not materials you would have necessarily in your house.
No.
Okay, so again, it gives the students experience on those things. Some of the bars we have, they have like a glitter in the surface of the bar, which makes fingerprinting really difficult. But we're trying to create a contrast with the fingerprints. The powder you put on depends on the surface you put it on. So a light surface, we use a dark powder. A dark surface, we typically use light powders. But they have these sort of shiny bits like this mirror in them as well, which means when you're fingerprinting, it's very difficult because you can't use a dark powder because it's dark surface,
true.
and you can't use a light powder because you'll lose some of the actual information if you go over the things.
So what powder do you use if you can't use light or you can't use dark?
We can use things like fluorescent powders.
Okay.
So these are powders that we'll put them on exactly the same as if we're using normal sort of powder, but then you shine a light on these, and then you wear special goggles that stops that light coming into your eye. So all you can see is actually the actual light that's coming from the fluorescence of the powder. In the laboratory, because we're trying to teach the skill, you're kind of almost doing it in the most perfect scenario, but perfect circumstance ever. So we might use a white tile, for example, which is brilliant for fingerprinting. But when you come into these sort of particularly commercial environments where we have these different surfaces, they create their own individual problems when it comes to imaging and things like that. So the students can practice on these in this sort of facility. We start off when we're designing these sorts of practicals. We start off with the story, and then you start to add in the evidence. We try and look at a lot of different areas, so it's not just fingerprinting, it's not just fibres. We do a lot of toxicology as well, so they'll have to go back into the lab, they're going to do some analytical work, and they have to figure out, not only what is the molecule that's there, so what is the actual sort of toxin, what's the sort of drug that's there, okay, but how much is there? Is it actually relevant? Is it trace amount there's contamination, or is it somebody's put something into something to do harm to somebody else? So we try and cover a lot of different types of evidence within the seams. And that's purely so that we can get students to apply as much of the programme as they can to this piece of assessment. But we know more digital now as well, so we can pick up digital devices as well, so phones, laptops, there's sat-nav down there somewhere. So there's a lot of different things that we can put into these scenarios so that the students can start to build up a picture of what's actually happened.
How do you use the wider campus for other demonstrations or techniques for your students?
Outdoor scenes are very different. So obviously things are blowing into scenes, blowing out scenes and things like that. So we're very lucky here at Keele that we do have the campus, and that campus we've got settings like this where we can use more sort of domestic built-up areas. We've got areas where we can do our anthropology type work and sort of decomposition studies. We've also got access to the lakes, we've got access to the woods. So we've got, for example, colleagues that are going out on the lake with sonar to try and find, if you can find a body that's submerged, we can go and teach the students things like excavation, because again we've got the woods and things, we can use the woods as well. And we've just bought drones.
Drones?
Yeah, we've got drones, we've got some thermal imaging drones now, so we can send these up and we can use them for finding people in the woods. As we employ new staff, we can go into different areas, so we employ people that have worked in the police, from digital forensics point of view. We've got people that have gone into the crime scenes and actually done the work as well, so these guys are getting taught by people that have done it as well, people that obviously worked in laboratories and things like that as well, so they get a really good experience.
I think that is all the questions I could possibly think of. But I love this talk. I love actually visiting the house. So thank you so much.
Great
for... Yeah,
thanks.